Welcome to the Richmond Film Network Podcast, your all-access pass to the world of independent cinema. Each week, we go beyond the credits and sit down with the creatives who turn vision into reality. Tune in weekly to find out who's on the RFN pod.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the RFN Podcast. I'm MK Martey, your guest host, and today I'm joined by director V. Long and producer Thomas Jordan to talk about their film Cosmo, which is screening at the RFN Indie Fest Saturday, August 9th at the Park RVA. V and Thomas, thank you so much for being here, and welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us on.
Yeah, so let's start where it all began. Where did the concept for Cosmo originate? Was there a specific moment, image, or idea that, sparked the story?
Well, Holly, our writer, she was going through a transitional period in her life, and Cosmo was kind of like a metaphor for that originally. It became much more than that, but yeah, it was Holly's brain baby.
Okay.
We both saw when we went through it, we were reading a couple different scripts, and we both grabbed onto it very quick, and it resonated with us. So I think from the beginning of just like recognizing what we both liked in the script, our idea kind of melded almost immediately with how V saw it and then how I saw it. Like our in our heads, what the script looked like was kind of already similar from the beginning.
Did the idea evolve at all during development, or did you hold tight to that original idea or vision that your writer had? And what drew you to the script exactly?
Eldritch horrors. Like that. That's kind of my bread and butter. So kind of like what Thomas said, after reading it, it was like, there's nothing else I'd rather work on than Cosmo. And yeah, it super evolved. I mean, the lore got pretty deep. There were many nights of us talking through everything and being like, oh, and nothing that's like on the screen, unfortunately, but just like, oh, and this is because of like aliens or like whatever, what have you. Kind of just like fun behind the scene, deep lore. Yeah.
Yeah. When it first read it, the first like sort of iterations of it were a lot more sort of alien, I guess. But then as we like explore like what I feel like me and V both find actually like scary and interesting about aliens, it wasn't necessarily the fact that they're from outer space and they, are little gray guys that go and walk around. It was like the sort of existential implication of it, and so that evolved a lot, I feel like, as it went on.
Yeah. So, what drew you to telling the story through a lens of experimental horror and sci-fi rather than something more conventional? And I get that maybe your writer might have had a lot to do with that, but as director and producer, was there anything about the genre itself that you had a hand on dealing with?
I mean, it just was appropriate for the script. It wasn't something that we could have made conventionally. I feel like it wouldn't have had the same impact, the same look and feel. I think the only route since the beginning was like, we knew that this was going to be weird. It had to be. But yeah, it was always like that. Yeah.
Are those like genres you're typically more drawn to?
Oh yeah, for sure. For sure. Same thing with Thomas too. We're big horror heads.
Especially with the whole sort of analog angle of it, and that central idea where I was saying like both of our visions kind of matched up almost unspoken at the beginning, where obviously we developed it a lot more. But at the beginning, the only real way to depict a sort of alien weird experience is to show it in a weird alien way. If we try to do like a conventional sort of jump scares and flying saucers or something like that, then that kind of like science fiction horror, like on our budget especially, we would have been going through the motions in that kind of way and filling cliches that we don't, like when we see them in other movies.
That was like a huge thing, like making sure it wasn't cliche and doing something that isn't like the conventional scary jump scares and that kind of stuff. And it was seriously like an across the board decision. Like everyone was on board from the get-go that's how it was going to be.
You made Cosmo on I believe it's a $3,000 budget. What were some of the biggest creative choices you made in spite of that limitation, if that budget is true?
Yeah, we smirked at that because that was our budget, but we did not use it all. We ended up not needing it.
Okay.
And
Oh,
we had more money than that even designated to the project, but then when we got down to what we were able to get access to, we
Yeah,
ended up
lucky.
actually using significantly less. Mainly, I think, just because everything was utilized like as much as it could be. Like if we're gonna put together this room and do these, the set decoration or something like that, like we're gonna get every little bit out of it that we can, and not spend money on stuff that we knew we didn't need.
yeah, everything was very in-house in the end there. Our budget 100% would have been blown on locations, but that that was a whole kit and caboodle where a bunch of our locations fell through like super last minute, and we had to do everything in the depot on off Broad, or on Broad, I guess. And it was just like, oh yeah, all of that money that we would have had to spend on getting this huge warehouse that we were gonna like trick out and other creepy little buildings, but yeah, it ended up being right at home. So that saved us a lot of money.
And that gave, as far as like creatively, I feel like that gave us the ability to go all out with making it how we wanted then, because we weren't as beholden to like, I mean, we were beholden to a location. As in anything that's shot, we're going to be depending on noise levels around the area, and it's on Broad Street. So trying to turn that into a quiet, abandoned punk venue was like a big challenge. But I think that because of it, it was a challenge like that. It made us think about all these different things that we probably wouldn't have thought of, and we like V was putting a lot more details and able to have the actors notice things on set and get a more genuine reaction out of them, which creatively, I think that it ended up liberating us quite a bit.
Yeah, that sounds like it's my dream to be under budget or have more left over. Um, there's a strong musical undercurrent in this film that kind of adds, layers and textures. The story centers around a punk band. How did you manage to get music to shape the narrative or tone of Cosmo?
That's totally a Thomas question.
Um, so the writer Holly, she's a musician that I had actually played a couple of live shows with in Richmond, and she's in the music scene, and we've done recording for our own separate music projects before, and so we were both kind of ready to work with each other on it. So V was there. It was there when all three of us sat down and scored it together. And originally we had ideas of making a couple of songs as the band Cosmo for promotional reasons, like making that kind of thing. But what ended up happening with it was just sort of us taking a crack at doing ambience and making like soundscapes, instead of like traditional music. And a lot of parts in the movie there's no music. I mean, there's that entire conversation between Violet and Stacy has like no score, and Holly would think about like, what should we do here? And it's like, no, most of the music needs to happen once they go into the building. And so as far as like our influences, we were both into these sort of soundscapes and ambient, noisy type things. And I think what helped is not being afraid to like blow out the speakers a little bit, honestly. That whole, I mean, I got a little bit of pushback about the TV scene in the basement where it gets really loud and is peaking the speakers, but
I was one of the pushbacks.
but the fact it's about a punk band and it's sort of the uncomfortableness that comes with that loud noise and that distortion it draws people to that music, and I think it draws people to movies in the same way when something's almost assaulting your senses.
Yeah, I was really lucky to work with those two because they're very talented.
So that that band dynamic, was that something that you wanted to explore narratively, or was it for the energy that it brought mainly? Because
like the actors playing a band, V worked a lot more with the actors, but we got a lot of background footage for the different montages and then special effects where it's the band hanging out and recording themselves on tour like how a lot of bands do. And working on a movie set kind of feels like going on tour where you spend a lot of time around this core group of people and get to know them really well and have to essentially just work and be a little bit miserable with them, especially if it's in the summer. And so they were filming themselves, and I think it gave them a way to naturally kind of, in the story, they already have this dynamic of being a band, and then on set they're kind of their own little band of performers, because everyone around them is just there to help them do their show right. And then again, me and Holly both being in the music scene around Richmond and knowing each other and kind of, I don't know, it just gives you a little bit to work off of, I'd say. Like when just working on anything, whether it was like going over the script with V or working on the score itself.
Yeah, it was definitely a lot of both. Like, it's funny how it was kind of like a Russian nesting doll of like, well, and then they're a band, but then we're a team, which is like a band, and then some of them were like Thomas and Holly were literally in a band, and like it was just all it just, I don't know, yeah, natural
DIY punk like feeling kind of came through in the fact like the struggles that we went through that we were talking about, like getting location and getting people to band together. Like only in Richmond would I be able to like be like, hey, I need an ashtray for this prop. I need an ashtray prop for the set, and someone can run home to their apartment and grab one and bring, so everyone was contributing and had that kind of DIY feel of caring about the project more than, I mean, it was a school film, but it wasn't, the idea of
it didn't feel like it.
The idea of a grade kind of passed us by, and we kind of were giving off that pressure. Like, we know we're supposed to be doing this, for a grade, but we're focused on making the movie that we want to make. And even if people don't get why we're doing what we're doing in the production, they'll see the final product and they'll be like, oh, okay, it makes sense now.
Yeah. Can you talk a little bit more about your approach to actually blending genres like horror, sci-fi, and mystery together? Was there one that you prioritized more than the other, or were they always meant to coexist? Like, did the sci-fi, come in, or did you mix that in later down the line?
It's funny when you ask it that way. I do feel like the sci-fi kind of came in later. It was primarily supposed to be horror. Like, we wanted to make a scary movie on a low budget, but not in your face scary, but like that unsettling, creeping scary. And I think that led into the mystery, which led into the sci-fi because of how it all happened. But yeah, the intent was always scary, but it definitely evolved as we went through everything, especially in pre-production. We needed to find the note that we were trying to hit. And I think the genre blend is what kind of gave Cosmo a little nudge, a little push, a little flavor. Because like it's different, and we meant it to be different.
So the trailer packs like a lot of striking visual choices, blinking lights, edits, and saturated color. What were some of your influences when building out the film's visual language? Did you storyboard heavily, or was it more improvisational on set?
We storyboarded pretty hard, but once it came down to it, things changed, as always, on set. Yeah. Like shots that we didn't expect to want. Like there was this one shot we were working on with Carly when she's on the phone and she gets sucked into the phone. Thomas had walked by just by happenstance and was like, we need to get a shot of the phone hanging. And like things like that happened all the time. Just like little things like that happened on set where we're not planning for it, but like, oh, this would look great, and that kind of stuff.
I think we shot over the course of 3 days, right? Back to back to back. And I was going home each night and starting on the edit. And when it came down to it, things were changing. We constantly had the edit in our mind of like we need to grab the shot because I can know in my head we're going to want something right here. We're going to need some sort of time break and that kind of thing. So us going home and editing it each night, and that's not just going through dailies, but actually editing it, because a lot of
Putting
things
it on the
we're having,
timeline.
like especially with the whole TV special effects setup, having to use edited footage from the day before the next day so that the actors would have something to react to. Um, that was a pretty big deal for for us. And for me, that whole sort of aspect of everything when we're doing all this sort of analog gear, and that's the kind of science fiction aspect, is this sort of old gear behaving in a really strange way. We were very keen from the beginning, me and V both, of we don't want to be doing overlays and screen replacements. We we have experience in that kind of stuff, and it's not something that we wanted to be worried about. Was, can we put this on this TV screen? And so getting as much as we could to be there real for the actors to go and like react to, and to feel genuine, was important to me for the visual part of it.
Well, also the pacing. Like the pacing was a huge thing in the editing room too, where like we knew from the beginning, in order for it to be scary with such a low budget, that it has to be slow. It has to have that anxiety. So like like all the long takes and all of that stuff was super intentional. And yeah, and it came shine through in the edit for sure.
10-page script. Originally it was 10-page script, and then and that's, most people think that's a killer right there, but for us it was like, it's not as dialogue driven, being able to draw out and get as much tension as you can out of these moments. The longer it got, the more we understood that we were building up. The whole thing is just this one build up. It's not as much a sequence of this happens, therefore this happens, therefore this happens. It's a different kind of feeling where it's just the whole time ratcheting up to, a cutoff at the end.
What was your most ambitious shot or scene in the film, and how did you pull it off with your resources?
The float.
The most ambitious shot is in the movie.
Yeah, it didn't even make the cut. We had this like grand plan. Oh gosh. And we tried it. We tried so hard. We really did. To have Theo, our lead, the float scene where she's in the like mindscape, we were supposed to have like a green screen situation where she's like floating, and we tried all sorts of things to make it work, but it ended up just being, I guess in the end, like not really necessary, which sucked because it was gonna look so sweet. But yeah, we tried, we really tried, but it ended up not being a thing. So it was definitely maybe a bit too ambitious.
As far as like, from what I remember, as far as what's in the final cut and everything, what took a long time was just that slow zoom in to Violet and Stacy talking, just sitting down and talking. Yeah. It sounds so simple, but the fact that where we were filming was very busy, and just having to keep it holding there, and they've got to keep going through this.
There's one take,
the most dialogue in the entire thing, and it's all like back to back. I remember being nervous about that, and being thankful that I wasn't, in V's position or behind the camera, having to have every little detail mapped out and make sure that long take could turn out well.
Without spoiling anything, what do you think Cosmo is really about beneath the creature feature surface?
Without spoiling anything, but I guess, like, is it lame to say like community? Because I feel like having, I mean, a lot of it thematically was like having someone there for you.
The one like feeling that I come away from it, and I think everyone might feel differently, is disassociation. That's what the whole sort of movie feels like to me. is and that can take like many different forms, like we're talking about sort of like during big transitions in your life, or your identity and the people that you know around you, like being in a band is a big one, and that feeling of disassociation is all over, I think, Theo's face throughout like the movie, and that's like the feeling that I get and relate to it as much. But then also that's I don't have as much of a focus on like the element of the dialogue and that sort of connection that Stacey and Violet have, because V was working with the directors more with the actors more, and had more of a focus on the script, whereas I was more focused on the like atmosphere of the edit and stuff like that.
Fear of the unknown too was like a big thing that we talked about like a lot. Because that, I mean, all of the above, like know thyself, know your friends, all of it is kind of just, it's the fear of the unknown, and that's what was supposed to be the scary part, is that it's unknown.
What made you guys go with the black and white style?
It looks cool.
Yeah, I mean that's an answer. I thought it was cool too.
I mean, we definitely had like ever said, "Oh man, this looks so cool," but I feel like in our early talks and kind of what we were thinking of is it's supposed to be. It just felt it fit in with the atmosphere of where the main character was, like where their head was at. It was kind of like, they're at the end of their long tour. They've been on the road. The fun of this kind of life has been sucked out, and then also when the color comes back in, we wanted that to be kind of Wizard of Oz like, and then you kind of realize like, oh, this world has been in color the whole time. The main character just hasn't been seeing it in color. That's the kind of vibe that I got. I think it made the moments that are in color hit a lot harder.
The lighthouse was also a big like inspiration for us, because it's like one of those slow burn scary movies, and we felt like we would have more control if it were in black and white, because then we could mess around with the contrast and really deepen those shadows or lighten those highlights and that kind of stuff that we felt gave a little bit of edge to our film, and as well as also paying homage to the lighthouse. But yeah, that was something that we talked about in the very beginning. I think we knew that we wanted it to be different in every single way that we could, and so black and white was just like, we're going to do that.
We had to put together a pitch video to pitch it to get the budget that we did get, and that was done in black and white, not necessarily out of initial choice, but because we were the whole thing of this of using old footage and blending it in this almost trippy way. Just old footage is in black and white a lot of the time, and that kind of atmosphere of like scrolling through the past, I feel like motivated the whole thing.
As a VCU student film, what kind of support or honestly even constraints did the environment offer you, the academic environment?
Well, our film was a little bit different than some of the others that were being made around the same time, where the staff were completely hands off. Like all the faculty, all of our professors were totally hands off. Of course we had help and of course we had support, but we had kind of built our team in such a way that we can rely on each other first and foremost. And so that kind of like, we didn't really need outside help, especially when we were on set. It was just us. They would check in sometimes, but I think during pre-production, Sarah, she's our executive producer, she kept our heads on straight for us because we went through so many hurdles. Like everything that could have gone wrong went wrong. So if it weren't for her support, it would have been a completely different movie.
I think a big thing too on the less creative side of it was just that we picked our team out of like the people that we had available very like intently, and I wasn't going to start a Slack like page and these things where we're gonna send each other, like, I'm like, let's meet in person and like talk about this stuff and get all on the same page and not just be like, sending each other memos that we check a day later. Like, because you'll have an idea, someone might have an idea for a split second when you're there in person that they can shoot out, and you can grab
Right.
onto it. Whereas if it's on, going through emails between four different, departments, it gets lost in the ether and you're never gonna finalize it. And so us having like a strong like in-person connection, and it sucks that I have to say that nowadays that's the kind of thing where even if you live a couple blocks away from a person you're working with them, you might not be seeing them a whole lot, whereas like let's meet up together and talk about each aspect of it and get everyone's sort of input, so that the people that know what's going on are the ones running everything and are making all the decisions, not people that are just trying to help us on a technical level.
Yeah, that's really well said. That actually ties into the next thing I wanted to ask, which is, what did this project teach you about working as, as a director and producer, and not just creatively, like you said, but, in terms of managing, the team, time, stress?
That it's hard. Like, gosh, it's hard. You can never be more prepared. Like, we're giant fans of our team. Like, yeah, Cosmo's cool, but the crew, like, it seriously, if it weren't for like everyone working together as well as they did, and we had prepared for that, like even pre-production, we had this. I have to talk about the whiteboard. We had this whiteboard going of like people in our class that would be like ideal candidates for like first AC and cinematographer and all of that stuff. Like, we were preparing from before the beginning, and still it was like in filmmaking, right? Like, everything goes wrong all the time. But like directing, I've had like some experience in the past, but nothing as like high caliber of so many people as Cosmo was. And I think the biggest takeaway that I had from it is like keeping your cool. It's so easy to like get caught up in the momentum of it all. I mean, because everything's happening at once all the time. And I that first shot, actually, it was the slow zoom into the conversation. I had to take a big step back after that because it was hard. And I felt like I got all in my head about it. And the cool part about filmmaking is that it's outside of you, and it's about, the story, it's about your team, it's about connecting. And I think that knowing that and reminding myself of that really helped me like work with other people. And I mean, a lot of it is trust too. Like, I think we got really, really lucky with Cosmo, that we were all in alignment, trust each other fully, we all had the same vision. And I'm super grateful because I've been on some crazy sets and Cosmo was just like a dream. But yeah, like relying on your team, trusting yourself, trusting others, it's all super important when it comes to directing, filmmaking.
And that about like everyone having the same vision, I feel like getting everyone to care about every other department was a big thing. Um, because it was the kind of situation where if we're a little vague on like plot or story details, we still want people to get the feeling. Like, you might not get what's happening in this moment when like what it's going to look like in the edit, but if you can understand what we're going for and just get that emotion. So a big part about that for me, like as a producer, was because simultaneously I was doing special effects for it, music for it, and then editing it, and was letting people in on it, like while I'm sitting there editing, like, come check out, like, this is what the scene we're working on today, this is what it's supposed to get to, this is what's going to be on the TV tomorrow, and this is the kind of stuff, this is what it's going to sound like, instead of just reporting to each department and being like, hey, can you make sure that I have this? It was showing them what the other departments are doing in conjunction with what I'm making for it through either the edit or the music or the special effects, so that they can be like, okay, I don't know exactly what's in Thomas and V's mind right now, but I know what the feeling is and what the vision is at the very least. I think that ended up helping us, and it made production go like buttery smooth once we got onto set.
Mm-hmm. Like it was like insanely collaborative. Everyone had a hand in something, like no matter what their department was, which was awesome, especially when it came to redecorating the depot and all of that. Like, had it not been all hands on deck and everyone moving toward the same thing, it would have been a totally different movie. But no, we were all very, very passionate.
And people work a lot like better together and smoother when they think what they're making is cool.
Yeah.
It sounds so simple, but it's if you don't seem like excited and into what you're making, then how is your crew going to be into that? If you're not hyping up the production design to the lighting people, how they're not going to properly light it in the way that you want.
Exactly.
So we learned how to really build up each department amongst the other departments, so everyone sort of felt like, well, this wouldn't work if I didn't have this part and this part, because it all blends together. It's not just like, oh, we're set deck and we finished decorating the set, so we're done or whatever.
Yeah. Let's talk about what's next for you two. So are you continuing the festival circuit? Any plans for distribution or other screenings, maybe other projects?
There was some talk of not like a sequel, but like a in the same universe situation. And it's still, I mean, who's to say, it still could happen. But in terms of circuit and stuff like that, we're kind of taking it, is it bad to say day by day? Like it's one of those things where like when opportunities present themselves, we go for it.
I think we're interested in distributing it and getting it out there. We're so proud of all the work that people did on it, and we really wanted to be able to show it to people and get credit for it rather than it, being trapped on my hard drive. So we're interested in doing that, but we want to do it in the right way, especially with Richmond and the music scene around here, of having like a real Cosmo band for a few shows as promotion.
That'd be a good one.
And yeah, I think we want to get it out there and sort of get into promoting it more as a finished product rather than going through the festival circuit over and over again.
Yeah, so you really would like to stay in this like edgy world, that kind of that.
Well, I mean,
I like that.
It's really hard to grab attention, even on the internet nowadays. I mean, with it's like it's like, oh, TV's been taken over, so all the viral marketing happens on the internet. But now the internet is now the new home base of marketing. So even then, it's hard to do something eye grabbing. And so we want to do it in a way that's unique and that fits how we uniquely shot and planned the whole thing.
Yeah, I think it would serve Cosmo better if it were.
Yeah, I know this. It's a wonderful film, and I cannot wait to see it premiere at the film festival. All right. So thank you both, Thomas and V, for joining me today on this podcast. Before we wrap, please, can you let our listeners know where to find out more about Cosmo or keep up with your upcoming projects?
We actually don't. We're kind of hard to find.
I was gonna say I don't think I expected any other answer from a director who just released like a punk themed short film.
The biggest promotion I could say is to know as little about it before you go and watch it. If you're going to the Indie Fest, so if you're watching this, podcast, maybe try and scrub it from your brain before you go and watch and go in with a fresh set of eyes, because I think we want the movie to speak for itself until we're ready to just put it out there. Neither of us are marketers.
No.
But
and I guess if we were, it would kind of be like a keep your eye on the streets kind of situation.
If you
I'm
know,
sure
you
that
know, exclusive.
yeah, there might be a flyer somewhere. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe go to a house show or something, and you see some people playing
Yeah.
some weirdo music.
Talk to us. We're around, you know.
I love that. Well, if that does change, definitely let us know and we'll plug you in. And yeah, thank you for joining me on this interview. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, everyone. If you want to find out more about Cosmo, please come to Indie Fest August 9th and keep up with our social medias. We'll see you next time.
That's a wrap for this episode of the Richmond Film Network podcast. Thanks to our guest and to you, our listeners, for tuning in. Don't forget to subscribe, comment, and share. Tune in next week to see who's on the RFN pod. Until then, keep the cameras rolling.